Hi everyone, Ash Nightingale here from highestlevellife.com, and the idea of today's video is sometimes the best way to help somebody is to not help them at all. Now, a quick disclaimer, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you remove all favours from every single person that you know in your life and stop helping other people, stop being kind, stop being generous, and suddenly become a self-centered, egotistical, horrible person. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm just saying that in certain situations, sometimes one simple favour where you think you're helping someone else can turn into somewhere where it's actually not going to benefit you and it's not going to benefit the other person involved. So I'll give you a few examples of this. The first one would be in a financial situation. So say you have a friend or relative or someone close to you who continuously seems to get themselves into financial trouble, and you know the first time it happens you think, oh well, I'll just bail them out, I'll just give them this money, they obviously just need this money, it's probably only going to be the once. And this happens once, and then maybe it happens again, and maybe a third time, and it seems to become a bit of a recurring theme, and you end up bailing them out again and again. Another example could be something like you have a friend and they lose their license through drink driving, and you decide to give them a lift, and you think, well, you know, they didn't mean to lose their license, so I'll give them a lift, and then eventually you end up giving them another lift, and before you know it, you're driving them around the place all the time, and it becomes, again, a recurring theme. So those are the sort of examples I'm talking about, where it sort of goes away from an equal, balanced relationship where it's give and take. You know, you give something to the other person, they give something in return. It moves away from that to where it's a bit one-sided, and you start to feel a little bit taken advantage of. And actually this is really not beneficial to the other person. So how it's going to affect the other person is they're not going to actually learn the lesson that they need to learn to prevent them from doing that behaviour that got them into that situation in the first place. So effectively, how it's going to affect you also, like I say, if this goes on for long enough, you're going to really start to feel quite resentful and feel like I'm really being taken advantage of here and being taken for a bit of a ride. And that's really not good for your mental health, or just the way that you feel. Having a bit of resentment built up inside you and not releasing that can be not great for the way that you feel. The other thing about it for you could be, this could be time, energy and money that you're putting into your own life, your own personal development, your own self-growth, but instead you're taking the time, energy and money and you're putting it into somebody else and solving somebody else's problem, which really actually isn't solving somebody else's problem. All it's doing is helping them get over this short-term hump, and it's really actually not helping them solve the problem long-term. So in a way, this is kind of symptomatic of codependent behaviour, so where there's a victim and a rescuer, and almost both people get a little bit addicted to that scenario. So the rescuer kind of, in a way, gets some sort of fulfilment out of constantly saving the other person, and the other person gets very used to constantly being saved. So that's basically the idea of codependent behaviour. The other way to name that would be learned helplessness. So where somebody effectively is given everything through their life again and again and again, and they're constantly bailed out, constantly helped through their problems rather than being allowed to solve their own problems themselves, and they never actually learn how to be a full, independent, complete human being, because they're constantly being bailed out and they're going to constantly need more and more help through their life. So the way I would suggest to overcome this sort of problem is quite simply to think about, do you feel like they've overstepped the mark? And if you feel like they've overstepped the mark, basically just start to gradually withdraw your support and allow them to learn the lesson that they need to learn to move their own life forward. And further from that, the way I would suggest to deal with that sort of scenario is effectively there's 4 different ways that we deal with stuff. There's passive, which is where we effectively don't do much about the situation. We allow it to just pass us by, and we hope that you know, it's not going to happen again, but we deep down feel a bit resentful and we don't really do anything with that. It just sits in there, we're resentful, and that's not a great place to be. So that's passive. The next one is passive aggressive, where we kind of let someone know that we're a bit pissed off. You know, we'll be grumpy and moody and stuff like that around them, but basically we are annoyed with them, but we're not letting them know in a direct way that we are annoyed with them. So that's kind of passive aggressive. It's a bit like backhanded. And then aggressive is full on shouting your head off at somebody, telling them that you're pissed off with them, maybe even being physically violent towards somebody. So those 3 ways, the passive, passive aggressive and aggressive, that's right, isn't it? Passive, passive aggressive and aggressive. None of those 3 ways of dealing with stuff are a very healthy way to deal with things. The only real way to deal with things in a healthy way is in an assertive way. So this is to own how you feel. So when you would phrase it in such a way, it's something like this: when this happens, I feel like this. So for example, when I give a lift again and again and again and I get nothing in return, I feel a little bit taken advantage of. And then you follow that up with a statement or a request. So something like, so in future I would like maybe not to give a lift so often. So you're effectively owning how you feel, putting it out there, naming it, and stating what you want as an intention. So that would be the most positive way to deal with things, and that is always the most positive way to deal with things, whether it's to do with relationships or, you know, friends, dealing with these interpersonal issues. Always best to deal with things in an assertive way. And if you're interested in assertiveness, that is a whole massive topic in itself, which I can do another video on. If you're interested in that sort of thing, comment in the section below. Thanks very much for watching. I appreciate you guys being out there and watching the content. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing to the channel. But other than that, I hope to catch you in the next video.